Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is the Breakfast Bankroll, November 2nd, 2021. Less than 2 months left in the year of 2021. How quick time flies. Today, myself and my co host will go over the Chiefs and the Giants last night. We will preview Game 6 World Series, Atlanta at Houston, and return of the Mac in some NCAAF tonight. So without further ado, my co-host from the Palm Tree States himself, the one and only Mr. Scott E. Webb. Scotty, my brother, what is happening?
Morning, Jeff. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. I woke up this morning, the feet hit the ground. We got another 24 hours here to make something happen.
Well, that's what we do, right? I mean, you sit here and you grind every day to figure out where you're at and what you're doing. And we got some action a little bit tonight, more so than yesterday. And we went over that Monday night football game, and I think we came out okay.
Yeah, as I got scrolling here, the Dogs in week 8 were 11-4 against the spread, and for the year, 69-53, hitting at a 57%. And when you talk to a lot of people, what might be part of the difference, and a lot of it has to do with that home field. They're talking about where there used to be the home field advantage, and in a lot of spots now, it's really not what it used to be. Now, I don't know if it's COVID, it's regulations, less people coming into the stands. We do know a lot of some of these teams travel real well, the Packers, the Cowboys, and some of these other teams. When teams travel to LA now for the Chargers, for instance, it doesn't seem like a home game so much for them. Any thoughts on why the Dogs are doing so well?
Well, I think that there's a lot to be said for parity in the NFL, and I think that when you start to look at the teams and kind of how close they are bunched together as a group, I don't think there's a whole lot of teams that are stand out way ahead of the other teams, and then there's the bottom of the barrel teams aren't as far bottom of the barrel as they used to be. So I think that you're going to find that you're going to get to a point where some of these games are going to be dog type driven games because of that. I think that your standard 3 points for a home situation may not necessarily be that. Over the course of last year when I was doing these games, I gave the home field, 1.5 points just because they played at home, and I wasn't giving them 3 points. This year, I'm looking at 2.5 points, not 3. So I don't know if that is a derivative of home field as much as it's the parity of the league. It's just like last night, right? You got this game where the Chiefs, and you saw the Chiefs go up and down the field. I mean, they just went up and down the field, and you're sitting there going, Jesus, I got this other team, and I got 10.5 points, but holy shit, they got to stop them somehow. They didn't stop the Chiefs. The Chiefs stopped themselves. So we were on the right side of the game, but only because of the way the game played out. So I think that it's kind of an interesting, look at some of the stuff that, if you looked at numbers and stuff, and we talked about it yesterday, the Kansas City Chiefs aren't the same Kansas City Chiefs that they have been. They can't play defense. I mean, they can't stop anybody. If you can't stop the Giants, you can't stop anybody. So, I mean, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to the Giants, but they're not a team that's going to go up and down the field, and they did last night to a degree. So, I think that you're seeing a lot of that these days in the NFL. And I think that, even the teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars, not that they played a great game last week, but, in terms of offense, they rank like 17th, 18th in the league in offense. They just can't stop anybody. So, all these teams are really close to each other. And, it's like Look at the AFC South, right, or whatever they call that league now with the Steelers and those guys. They're all the same team. You have the Steelers, the Ravens, the Browns. They're all the Bengals. There's not a team that stands out in that league. The AFC East has the Bills that kind of stand out, but everybody else kind of is all blended together except the Jets. And then you got all these teams that are just like, okay, the Cowboys stand out in the NFC East, but we knew that. But all the other teams are all the same. So I mean, it's like, all right, so who really is good and who really isn't good, and I think they're all decent, and I think that the bottom of the barrel teams are even better than they used to be.
And it's kind of comical because I always talk about how the public remembers what they saw last. Perfect example. Green Bay travels to Kansas City this week. The actual opening number was Kansas City -2.5. And after that game, it flipped. Green Bay now currently -1. They're at a pick at South Point, Caesars, and win. But for the most part now, Green Bay is -1. And, you take your hat off to Green Bay for no Devontae Adams, no Lazard last week, no Scantling. Yet they found a way to win in Arizona. They have a couple extra days off. All those guys should be back. Now they're going to travel to a Kansas City team. Like you said, they moved up and down that field. They just, the O-line, what I noticed a lot of now is the O-line is so bad that a lot of the times Mahomes has got to roll to the right. And when you roll to the right, you're cutting half the field off. And as Chris Sims broke down today, there were some plays in that game that back in the old days, Mahomes would have just put a dagger in your heart. The one that I remember specifically is Tyreek Hill. He would have hit him in stride for a 65-yard touchdown. He throws it 10 yards short, and it's a jump ball, and it's an incomplete pass. So I think it's one of these where we talked about it. Now I think Kansas City is 3-15 their last 18 games now against the spread. I think the public's going to pile on, and the Packers will probably be 2.5 probably by kickoff. And I'm not saying anything right now, but this could be the game all of a sudden that Kansas City wakes up and everything clicks. But we got plenty of time to talk about that.
Well, I can if you think that you can find a viable way that there's a path for Kansas City to be successful, then that's the way to go. Because I mean, they're at home, they're playing a good team. But the honest truth is the Kansas City Chiefs have played the hardest schedule in the NFL to date, and they are playing the hardest schedule for the next 5 or 6 more games. So it's not like they get a breather. They're getting beat up every time they go out and play somebody. So last night was sort of a breather game for them, and maybe in their own mind they took a breather. You don't know how these teams play. I mean, they go out and they go, holy shit, we got to play the Packers and then the Raiders and then whoever the hell else they got to play, and then they're sitting there going, oh, we got the Giants this week. Let's just kind of put on cruise control. So that happens. I mean, it happens in college a lot more than the NFL, but it happens. So you sit here and you think to yourself, okay, maybe they got this game circled for some reason, and they're going to get fired up and they're going to play, and then everybody else is piling on the Packers because of how it was played. And if you can find a path to where you're going to be successful with the Chiefs, that's the way to go.
Tonight, 8:09 first pitch, rotation number 961, 962, Atlanta at Houston, game 6, Fried versus Garcia. Houston opened up -120, currently -127 at the Circa, 126 at Westgate, 125 at South Point. DraftKings at -135. Breakdown thoughts. What are you expecting tonight?
Well, I went back and looked at Max Fried, and I went back and looked at his season this year. And he's had these last 2 starts haven't been the greatest starts for Max Fried. Now, having said that, over the course of the season, he has never pitched 3 bad starts in a row, not once. And I'm expecting Max Fried to have a good game tonight. Now, having said that, I expect Garcia to pitch halfway decent as well. So if I was going to play this game to a certain degree, I liked that under 9. It's not 9 anymore. It's at 8.5, I think, at most places. If you can get under 9, I would bet under 9 like right away. But is that what you're seeing? 8.5 everywhere now?
Yeah, opened at 9, juiced minus 120 towards the under. 8.5 over minus 120 at Circa, Westgate. You can run to the South Point, DraftKings, Caesars, Win, and Pinnacle right now and get that 9 juiced minus 120.
So they got to score 10 runs tonight to beat you. And you got Max Fried pitching, and you're going to expect Max Fried to pitch a good game. So I don't expect it to go over 9. There's no way. So if you're gonna play it, I think under 9 is a good way to go. Now, having said that, the way I bet it, because I was only able to get 8.5, and I'm like, I don't want to play the 8.5 because of the bullpens. So what I did was I played the Atlanta Braves in the plus the money. I get it that the Astros won, and now everybody thinks that the momentum is with the Astros and they're going home and all this other stuff. But so here's some interesting numbers for you. So Garcia and Garcia has thrown more innings than I thought he has. He's thrown 15 innings in his postseason career, 15 total. 13 of them are this year. But in those 15 innings, he's given up 11 hits, 11 runs, and 13 walks. So that's not very good. And this year, he's at 13 of those 15 innings, 13 innings, 11 hits, 11 runs, and 11 walks. His earned run average this year is 7.62. So even if he pitches pretty well, the idea that he's putting guys on base via the walk is a killer in postseason baseball. And that is an edge that I can't pass up that the Braves get. And the Braves are more powerful right now than the Astros. I mean, the Braves have hit more home runs than the Astros have. They've hit more doubles. They've hit the ball slugging wise better than what the Astros have. And you're going to give Max Fried on good rest with already throwing 2 poor games. I don't think he's going to throw a third one. And that's their guy other than Morton, and he's not pitching. So if you're going to give me him against, I would see this minus 130 if McCullers was pitching. That would make sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me that Garcia is minus 130 other than people just like what we said at the very, very beginning. What people remember what they saw last. And I'm just telling you that Max Fried is not going to pitch a terrible game tonight. And I think that he's going to pitch very well. And I think that that's going to put the Astros on holy shit, we got to do something mode. And I think that the Braves are going to be smiling and happy when this game's over tonight.
Return of the Mac. I sent out our alert last night, and I told everyone, and we spoke about it yesterday. And I saw it all over social media, especially Twitter. All of a sudden, everyone's a Mac expert. Meanwhile, on Saturday, when there's 100+ games going on,
nobody bets the Mac.
No one plays the Mac. No one talks about the Mac. Now that they're on Tuesday and Wednesday night, that's all anyone talks about. Oh, my God, the Mac's bet. Mac is back. Let's go. Let's run to the window, boys. And as I said in our alert, if you haven't watched Mac football, it's not for the weak of heart. Period. End of discussion. I've seen 20, 24-point favorites lose outright by double digits. I've seen 100 points total go in back and forth. There's no such thing as defense sometimes. And it's, as I stated, it's not the SEC. And I'm not discrediting the MAC at all. I enjoy the fact that there is football on, okay? I will not be watching it. I'll be watching the World Series. But my point is, I just want everyone to pump the brakes a little, okay? Yes, we're excited because there is football on for a month straight every day now. But just lower the expectations, that's all.
Well, to be honest, I grew up in Ohio, and I'm familiar with the MAC because there's a lot of teams in the MAC. Some of the guys I went to high school with went on to play in the MAC. So I know the caliber of people and caliber of talent that's in the MAC. And the truth is, they're just barely better than high school kids. I mean, they're not. I don't mean that disrespectfully, and you know that they're not the cream of the crop type players. Now, every once in a while, you'll get some stud that goes in there, and the only reason he gets to go to the MAC is because he flunked out of a big school or he got in trouble or whatever, and all of a sudden, he's there. But that's not the norm. The norm is that you get these guys that are second, third, fourth, fifth tier type players that don't belong in major college football. Now, having said that, looking at these numbers, there's 130 football schools that get graded out and get designed on. And in tonight's, I should include tomorrow night because Northern Illinois plays Kent State. Just looking at these numbers, there's 4 of those teams that are over 100 in rating and a 5th one at 94. So half the league is then the worst of the bunch. They're not. And Akron is 128 out of 130 teams. So, and they play tonight. So, and they're playing a team in Ball State that's 112, and Ball State is minus, 20 or some shit. What the hell ever is that all about? So you got 2 rotten ass teams playing each other, and one of them is minus 20. So that tells me something goofy's going on with that one. I just staying away. I don't like that. I don't, that doesn't feel right. Looking at numbers, you would sit there and go, okay, give me the plus 20 and go. But then when I looked at the plus 20, I'm looking at it and the reason that Akron is plus 20 is because out of 130 schools, they rank 129 on defense. So there you go. They're the god awful, but Ball State is 99 on offense. So okay, well that's still probably enough to push some points across the board. So I'm just going to stay away from that game. And it's just weird how these games. Toledo probably and Western Michigan are the 2 best teams in the MAC. Toledo ranks 44th. Western Michigan ranks 43rd. So it's kind of interesting. But for Toledo to rank 44th, you got to understand what they are. Because if you don't know who they are or what they are, you think of the Toledo Rockets from back in the day when they were really good and they went up and down the field and scored a lot of points and all that stuff. They rank 106th on offense. They can't score a damn lick, but they don't give up any points. They rank 4th on defense. 4th. That's pretty damn good. So you got to look at how the matchups go. So, Toledo is minus 9 points tonight. They might not score 9 points. It might be 7-0. I don't know. I'm just making that up. But the point of it is you really have to understand what you're getting and what you're doing. So when I looked at these games, there's only one game that stood out to me tonight, and that's the Miami, Ohio game against Ohio. And I get it. Ohio's struggling this year, and everybody's going, oh, they're 1-7 and blah, blah, blah. They're 3-4 against the spread. So what's interesting is EPA-wise, Miami, Ohio, is ranked 101, and Ohio is ranked 86. And Ohio is getting the points tonight, 7.5, and I think it just changed to 7, if I'm not mistaken. But 7.5 is the number I got. And the way this matchup works is Miami, Ohio is 93rd on offense. Now they get their quarterback back, who's been injured and stuff. But like we talked about, that matters. I don't know how much it matters in a MAC game, but it matters. So maybe they're a little bit better on offense tonight, but 93, and they're going against Ohio's defense, who sucks. It's 106. So I kind of look at that as the matchup's about the same. You got 100 offense and 100 defense. Okay, maybe it's just going to be an average output for what Miami does. But Ohio's offense ranks 51st, and they're going to go against the 89th defense in the country of Ohio. So that's an edge for Ohio. And then when you break it down and see where it comes from, Ohio can run the football. They are 13th in the country at running the football, and that's because they got a running quarterback. They got the kid from UNLV used to be out there, but he's the quarterback for Ohio, and he runs the ball. They're 13th, and they're going to go against the number 65th rush defense in all of America. So I think they can run the ball. I think they can hold the time of possession. I think they can keep it. They can do whatever they want to against it. And I think that's where your edge is, because when you look at Miami, they run the ball. They're 101st at rushing, so they're not going to really run the ball, which is the Achilles heel of Ohio. They can't stop the run. They're 113th in the country at stopping the football. But then Miami's 64th on pass offense, and Ohio's 89th. So that's pretty close. But if you're going to give me a touchdown, I'll take the touchdown, and I'll take Ohio at home.
Yeah, I just crunched some numbers. We've been doing it all day, all morning, last night. And I was just trying to find, to get creative. And you started talking, defense, offense, look at some team totals even, and anything that was sticking out. And what kind of stuck out to me was the Akron 19.5 under minus 123. To me, that again tells me that they're probably going to score 17 or less. That's usually what that target number is. And you talked about Ball State, 38.5 under minus 114. So they'll probably be in that 34, 35. Do they get to 37 number? So again, does Akron get to 17, 13, 14? Or do they get to that 20, 21? So there's really nothing that's really jumping out for me, at least. You talked about Ohio. Here they got their team total at 22.5, juiced over minus 120. They're trying to give you the hint that they get to 23 or 24. And then Miami of Ohio, 29.5 over 133. Kind of a hint they might get to 30 or 31. But again, for me currently, time will change. We only know, what we're seeing this second. There's really no glaring numbers that pop for us. Even when you go over to the first half, they're trying to tell you Ball State's got a good shot to get to 21. Akron 9.5 under. Do they get to 7 or do they get to 10? Spreads. So you got Ball State favored by 20. They're 11 points in the first half. Toledo, we said, was 8. Am I right on Toledo? Yeah, they're at 8. They're 5.5 first half. So the slight lean saying Toledo might, be 6 or 7 point up in the first. And then there's your Ohio +4 in the first half. But again, there's no horns going off. I mean, nothing's like jumping out. So again, that's why I kind of started our talk here in the MAC stating, a lot of people on social media are running to the window because the MAC is back. And I'm just trying to be, I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm glad. But I'm just saying, for us right now, there's nothing that really, really jumps out.
Well, it's a fun league to watch because you're never out of a game, and you never know what the hell is going to happen. These are the same goddamn guys that I lost a bet on before, where all they had to do was they had the ball at the 3-yard line. It was first down or second down. They had 45 seconds to go in the game. They're down by 10, and they decided to call timeout and kick a goddamn field goal. And then do the onside kick to try to score the touchdown. And I'm like, you dumb bastards. And they need to score a touchdown and then kick the long field goal. I mean, that only makes whatever. But so you have these guys that try to make a name for themselves as coaches and all that stuff too. So it's just a weird, fun league. When I first got involved in doing all this stuff, some of the I guess way to be taught was narrow your field down. So if you have 130 schools and you're trying to keep track of 130 schools, that's pretty hard. But if you were only going to then say, I'm going to only do, say, 2 conferences, maybe that was the best way to go. And then they were saying, well, one of the ways to do that is to take conferences that nobody watches. Go do the Sun Belt and go do the MAC. And if you got good at doing those two school conferences, you would know about what to do in these situations and what where things are, because you know them inside out, upside down, and backwards, and most people don't. And most people don't bet these games. If you go back to and look at how much dollars are bet on a Saturday, and then the percentage of those games are what the amount of money is bet on the Sun Belt or the MAC, it's probably less than 5% of the money. So all the money's going in on all these other games. So the truth of the matter is, you can find some edges and you can do some things, because the sports books, not that I'm calling them sloppy, but that they don't necessarily have that MAC specialist or the Sun Belt specialist like maybe they do with some of these other conferences and different things that they put out there. So you can specialize in some of this stuff and really have an edge if you went back and did it that way. But then I looked at that and I go, the hell with that shit. I want to bet LSU, Alabama, and stuff like that. I don't want to be betting on damn Ohio and Ball State. I mean, come on. So you had to figure out how to make all that stuff kind of congeal together. And, for me, the best way to do it's write programs.
And it's funny you say that, because I talk about this all the time on those Saturdays, whether it's college football or college basketball. The eyes flock to the primetime games. Your ears flock to game day. What are they promoting? What are they talking about? And it's the smaller games, the smaller schools, like you just said, that sometimes the numbers slip through the cracks. I talk about come college basketball season on Friday nights. The MAAC, when you're talking about the Niagaras of the world, the Manhattans of the world, the Marists of the world, you can get some good numbers on those because they're not heavily bet, and people really don't know how to gauge them. They're more worried about Kansas and Oklahoma on Saturday at noon versus, instead of, Iona at Marist or something like that.
Yeah, I think that if you're new to this, and I would follow that advice, is to narrow your field, get good at what you do, only play certain conferences, and if you want to put yourself down for 2 or 3 conferences, remember that's 30-40 teams depending on what conferences that you're doing. If you do 2, you're at 20 to 25 teams. So it just depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it. And then as you start to get extremely focused in understanding how this stuff works a little bit, you can start to expand out and grow a little bit. It doesn't hurt to learn with a study that matters. I mean, it matters to know these teams. It matters to know why the number is what the number is. I mean, you can sit here and if I were to put out power ranking numbers and all that stuff, and then do you go by those numbers or what do you go by? So, I think that, the best thing because I see this all the time, like on Twitter and everywhere else that you go, and certain websites you go to, and even what's the guy's name, Phil Steele, and all those guys, they put out power ranking numbers, and then you're supposed to make spreads off power ranking numbers and all this stuff. The power ranking numbers to make spreads is just wrong. I don't know how else other than to say it, and it's just wrong. That's not what you do. That's not what the sports books do. The sports books don't go and they don't have a number that says, okay, this team is magically number 75 and this team is magically number 80. So it's a 5-point differential. Who's the home team? Well, this team's the home team. Now, okay, well, they're -8 now because they got 3 points for the home team. That's not how it's done. So the way it's done is the value put on a team is based on the number of wins they're going to make on the season. So if you can come up with that percentage of whatever that percentage is going to be, then you turn that percentage into point spread. Okay. And then you can start looking at the point spreads and add the point spreads together. That's how it's done. So, for example, in the NFL, right, you have 17 games. If one team, we'll just make it 16 just to make math real easy. So we're back to last year. So if one team is going to win 8 games, that's 500, right? So if what is 500 on a flipped into that winning percentage turned into a point spread? It's 0, right? So 0. So they're not positive, they're not negative, right? So okay, so they're going to play a team that is supposed to win 10 games. So they're 10-16, right? So 10-16 or 10-6. I don't know what that winning percentage is. It's not quite 600, I don't think. So you start to flip the numbers around, and then that's a winning percentage of, I don't know, what does it say? It's 575 or something. I'm just making these up, so don't hold me to these math numbers. But then you take the 575, you turn that number into a spread, and we'll say that spread's -2. So now you can combine the two and say, okay, well, that team is going to be -2 over the team that's 0. So that's your initial number is -2. And then if you got to figure out, okay, what number am I using? Who's the home team? Am I using 1? Am I using 1.5? Am I using 2, 2.5? What am I using for home field here a little bit? And that can vary on the team too. So just because, Seattle, for example, has a pretty good home field where they do a lot of stuff. But does that mean they cover spreads and that should be a higher number and all that stuff? Think about that, because the truth of the matter is that at home they have a home field edge because of the noise and all that stuff. That doesn't mean they cover a lot of spreads. So their spread may not be 3, but let's just say it is, just for shits and giggles. So now you have -2 plus the -3 of home field. Okay, so you're -5. That's how the line gets created. And then what happens from the sports book is they go, well, -5, that's a goddamn dead number. I need to get some action on this number. So do I move it to 4.5? Do I move it to 4? Do I pump it up to 6.5? Do I try to entice people to bet it to 7, knowing that the line should only be -5? That's how it all works, guys. And that's where the numbers come from. And that's how spreads are made. So don't think spreads are made because sportsbook operators are back there going, oh, let me get my chart out. This team's 75, that team's 80, this team's 72, that team's 65. It's not that way. So when these guys come out and they give you all that bullshit, just throw it in the trash.
Well, and I'll close with this because, before the season started to where we are today, and we were talking about the big boys, Alabama plays LSU this week. And we know Big Ed is on his way out, and we know all that good stuff. Before the season started to where it is today, I mean, an absolute eye-opener. Alabama, -29.
I was going to say 4 touchdowns.
LSU.
4 touchdowns.
They'll probably be – it's funny because they're showing it opened at 28. It actually opened at 29. It's down to 28 and a hook. It's just mind-boggling. Listen, back a couple of years ago, Smoking Joe Burrow and the boys, national champs. Now they're getting 4 touchdowns before they even step on the field.
So here you have Alabama, the number 7 offense in all of college football, against the 107th defense from LSU. Would you ever have imagined saying LSU's defense was 107th? And where the real disparity here is they are 103rd on pass defense. And well, it doesn't really matter. They're 100th on rushing defense. So how does Alabama get stopped? I mean, they're just gonna stop themselves, be like the Kansas City Chiefs, right? But I bet they're more disciplined than what that was.
Well, and I will say this. I think Nick Saban and the boys will send out the Big O, Eddie O, on a nice little remembrance like, hey, listen, if you ever do come back to coaching, You don't want to come back to the SEC, brother.
Hey, there's a interesting game that nobody's watching or paying any attention to, and that is University of Texas San Antonio, UTSA, and UTEP. And that's an interesting game because if you start to break down numbers on that game, UTSA, I think they're undefeated right now. They're in the top 25 now or whatever, but they rank fifth in EPA, which is interesting. But what I found that even more interesting is UTEP ranks 11th. So this is a pretty good football game. That 18th offense for UTSA against UTEP's 120. I'm sorry. They're against the 12th ranked defense. UTEP is number 2 against the run and number 1 against the pass in all of football. I would have shit myself if I had to figure that out. I would never have been able to tell you that. And then the issue is UTEP they can't throw the football. They're 121st out of 130 schools throwing the football, but they run the ball 12th. They're the 12th best rushing team. So it's just an interesting matchup. I think UTSA wins the game, but I mean it's just an interesting thing where people don't really look at certain things, and if you quote specialized in some of that stuff, I think you'd be all right. And then remember, Jeff, we had hit that South Alabama team once. Well, let's look at South Alabama again this week. I think South Alabama's got a chance here. They play Troy. This is 381-382. Troy, 4 points, 3.5 points. And you know what? Troy's that team that people think about and know about because they've been on TV and they were pretty good and all that stuff. But they ain't that good this year. So South Alabama's pretty damn good. They are 13th in EPA, and Troy is 81st in EPA. And Troy's the favorite. So what that looks like is Troy's offense is 109. That's not very good. And they're going to be going against the defense of South Alabama that's 26th. And then where Troy picks up their difference is they're really good on defense. They rank 22nd. But they're 15th against the run, 60th against the pass. And when you start to think about what South Alabama can do, they're 26th on the run and 75th on the pass on offense. So I like the idea that South Alabama's getting points and they're the better team. I mean, holy shit. If you can find these spots, you just go out and have some fun with them. That's all.
So tonight, peoples, enjoy the MAC. Have some fun with it. Don't go crazy. We got Game 6, World Series, Fried versus Garcia. Scott leans Braves to win the tonight and win the World Series. A lot of MVP pizza and beer money we're holding, and it sounds like, and I get it, that Soler kind of is the favorite right now. I mean, but I know my guy Duvall's got a couple homers. I know Duvall also hit a grand slam the other night. So it's who has the big night tonight to hold up that MVP. It's going to be interesting. Do we get a Game 7 for tomorrow?
It's possible.
It is possible, but I do think the Braves early and often today. I think we do get that good Fried. I think that the Braves will work some counts, get that pitch count up. Can they get a crooked number up early? Will be interesting to see. Tomorrow and Friday, Andrew McGinnis at Wager Talk. McGinnis Picks will be on with us. Not sure about Thursday. We're trying to hold out for the real Vegas Dave and Dave Sharapan. Myself and Scotty will be back on Saturday and Sunday to go over some college football, some NFL as well. 21 wagering tonight. Always wager with your head, not your heart. If you have a problem, pick up that phone. There's an 800 number out there. Reach out, ask for help. Why? Because we care. Okay? So everyone, best of luck tonight. Cash some tickets. Stay in your lane. And see you tomorrow.